speaking. Chris, thank you. I'm trying to do this meeting, Chris.
I'm talking quietly.
Thank you. Members and officers, during each item on the agenda, please put your hand up to indicate you will wish to speak. I will then invite you at the appropriate time. If you're invited to speak, please remove your mask, put on your visor, turn on your microphone and speak clearly. Please reference a page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers. Keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible and ensure your microphones remain off when not speaking. Members, there are officers attending remotely. Azaria, the external auditor, Georgina Button, Damien Geller and Hannah Wheatley are all attending remotely. Item 2 on the agenda, apologies for absence. We have apologies for absence. Sorry, Berna.
Sorry, just going to give the apologies, Chairman. We've got apologies for absence from Councillors Jarvis and Councillor Nunn, and Councillor Swain is here this evening, substitution for Councillor Nunn.
Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda. Item 3 on the agenda, the minutes of the last meeting held on the 29th of July 2021. These are on pages 5 to 10 of your pack, and can we have it recommended that these are true and accurate? I so do move. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any members that wish to ask any questions on those minutes? No? Members, do you wish to agree by assent or move to a vote for these minutes?
Agree.
Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda is declarations of interest. To disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other pecuniary interests, or non-pecuniary interests relating to items of business on the agenda, having regards to paragraphs 6 to 8 of the Code of Conduct for members. Members are reminded that they are also to disclose any such interests as soon as they become aware, should the need to arise throughout the meeting. Do I have any? No? Okay. Item 5 on the agenda, public participation. I can advise that we have received no submissions from members of the public. Item 6 on the agenda, an update of the audit of accounts. To consider the update report for the Director of Resources, I will ask Mr Leslie to present his accounts.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Stevens.
I'm really sorry, but before we progress, could I ask the person behind me to just keep quiet so I can concentrate, because it's right behind me. It's really
You know the person behind me.
Councillor Morris, could you please be quiet?
No, I won't be silenced. You try to keep me out of the meetings.
I haven't tried to keep you out of this meeting.
Councillor Stilts, not yourself. But last time I came to sit in attendance to a meeting, they attempted to not allow the entry, which is against the Constitution. Please let me finish. Which is against the Constitution.
Chair, point of order. I don't think we allowed Councillor Morris to speak at this meeting.
All I'm asking.
The chairman has asked me a question, so that is inviting me to speak.
All I'm asking, Councillor Morris, is that you let the meeting go ahead. If you want to talk, do very quietly.
I am talking very quietly, and that was what I was doing.
Thank you.
And I would like to bring up that Councillor Stevens, full well knows my name, but calls me the person behind me.
Can we move on with this meeting, please, Councillor Morris?
Sorry?
Can we move on with this meeting, please?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you. Mr Leslie.
Thank you, Chair. The preparation of the accounts this year has been significantly impacted directly and indirectly by the ongoing pandemic, much more so than last year. On top of the timescales for audited accounts have been moved forward by 2 months to the 30th of September. Additional audit requirements have been introduced and starting changes occurred in the middle of the closure period. In terms of the pandemic, from an accounting perspective, there have been far more transactions, complex arrangements and technical adjustments brought in as a result to combat the pandemic. From a resourcing perspective, staff have been sick with COVID and resources have been focused on the COVID response, which takes away capacity to assist with closure, for example, in the Revs and Bends areas where they are processing business grants and reliefs. Despite all these challenges, the Council's draft accounts were published before the deadline of the 30th of June, although the impact was that the Council's audit working papers were not as well prepared as planned. The pandemic has also compounded the national issues of auditor resourcing. The audit of the Essex Pension Fund is now expected to commence until October, and the Council's audit is reliant on this work to be completed before our accounts can be signed off. As the accounts will not be audited by the 30th of September, the Council is required to put a notice on the website outlining the reasons for this. No significant issues have been identified by the auditors. The finance team is again now fully resourced with permanent staff in accordance with the structure and has experience of this year's closure, and the intention is to bring the audited accounts to the next committee meeting on the 18th of November.
Thank you, Mr Leslie. Do I have any questions for Mr Leslie? Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask Leslie, you said that the draft accounts have been published. Are they published on the website?
Yes, absolutely. They're on the website, available to the public.
Oh, okay, because I did have a look earlier, I couldn't see them. Maybe I was not looking in the right place.
Yeah. It's the 2021 accounts. Happy to send you the link. I think they are there published with the other accounts from past years as well.
Can I just ask another question, Chair?
Yes, go on, Councillor Fleming.
And so, Ms Leslie, last there's a requirement to open the accounts to the public and have them available at the offices every year. And did that take place last summer because we were in, or was that affected by lockdowns and what have you?
Yeah, the notice was out there, and the notice was published again in accordance with the requirements this year. So that is still able to occur.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just check again, please? On 4.7, sorry, what's it now? Oh yeah, 4.7, you mentioned that the orders will, the accounts will be ready for approval at the next committee meeting, although they're on the public domain before that?
That's right. So produce a draft set of accounts by the time frame, and then that set of accounts is audited by the auditors. And on conclusion of that audit, obviously they have their audit opinion, and that final audited accounts then goes for approval for the committee. So there's a
It's on the website.
It's a draft. I published a draft on the website, which then gets audited, which then gets approved.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Swain.
Councillor Swine. Sorry, Councillor Hull. Councillor Swine.
Thank you, Chair. Can I check with Mr Leslie about delays that have occurred and are still occurring, and although we have had resource problems, can he confirm that any further delays really are not on account, or not attributable to the District Council, but to other, as we say, problems elsewhere, either with auditors or with the County Council?
So we've provided the accounts, and the team continue to work on the queries as we go, and they're working through those as fast as possible from their end. So we're doing everything we can from our side. The auditors are obviously trying to get resources in to manage the queries and take care of the outstanding queries. So we're waiting for that at the moment. What we is out of our control again is the Essex Pension Fund audit. That's due to start in October, but if that is delayed further, then that will have an impact on our accounts, because we can't sign our accounts off until that has been audited.
Councillor Hull.
I just wondered if you could send us all the link, if that's possible. Is that okay? Thank you.
have any other questions? Councillor Hurd.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just a little bit concerned that because of the delay by Essex County Council, that this authority is having to face costs. I think you've sort of intimated that that's going to be the case, Mr. Leslie, is that right?
In terms of the delay for Essex County Council, I don't believe that would produce any extra costs wise, because it's simply just waiting for them, so I don't believe that would result in extra costs for us. It would just result in delay. If there are extra costs, I think it will be for other reasons rather than a delay in Essex pension fund audit.
Okay, right, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Leslie? The recommendation is to consider this report. Can I have a seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Fleming, thank you. Can members agree this by assent?
Yeah.
Thank you. Item 7 on the agenda is the review of the corporate performance Q1. I will ask Ms Hughes to now present to members the agenda item. Thank you.
Good evening, members. This is the first corporate performance report since the corporate plan was refreshed and approved by Council in February 2021. The report covers Q1, which is April to June 2021. This means that corporate performance measures for some of the themes have been updated now to allow the new outcomes that we are seeking to achieve, and some of the data collection of these is still in development. The explanation of what we are doing to gather the data is set out in section 3.5 of the report. So far, the 3 themes are broadly on track, although we are expecting that the impact of COVID will still be seen within performance reporting throughout the year. Section 3.4 highlights the indicators that are at risk for Q1. In the place thematic strategy, we have one at risk, which is the 5-year housing land supply, updated and published. Prosperity thematic strategy doesn't have any annotated at risk, and community thematic strategy doesn't have any annotated at risk. Section 3.5 highlights areas where data is pending that are new due to refreshing priorities and where we have the baseline data available. Members are invited to review the information set out and confirm assurance that corporate performance is being managed effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. The recommendations are the one that the members review the information as set out in this report and Appendix 1, with the priority focus given to the strategic outcome level performance. Item little that members confirm that they are assured through this review that the corporate performance is being effectively managed. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Fleming. Is there any questions for Ms Hughes? Councillor Hurd.
Thank you, Chair. I have a number of questions. The first one is on page 25, and this speaks about delivering the housing the district needs, and talks about the call for sites. Can we be informed as to when the call for sites ends?
Georgina's on the line too.
Georgina, can you answer that question? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I've got a number of questions, if I may, Chair.
Councillor Hurd, go on.
If I now move to page 28, this is in the appendix. It talks about awaiting data. I find it very difficult to gain assurance from this report if we are awaiting data. We know what data it is, who is going to give it, and when are we going to get it? Can you help me with that, please?
Yep, so we're just, these are the ones that are new measures this year, and we're having to gather information. So, for example, the cost for fly tip clearance, and we're just getting information about the cost per clearance, so you can put that information in there. But where they're new measures, it's taking just a little while to populate that data. And obviously, once we've got it, we'll be able to see how that changes over time.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on now to page 36. This is talking about the percentage of businesses engaged in this place. And again, it's got no baseline data available, which again I find rather odd that we've got no baseline data. We've had the census place for some time, yet no starting point. This is on page 36.
If you can, Georgina.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Chair, on page 42, it talks about community performance measures and your data. It talks about the number of schools supported by the MDC Year 6 transition to identify children with unaddressed mental health concerns and require support. So in 2019-20, supporting 2 schools, which I presume is
The Plume and Ormiston.
it's the Burnham one I'm trying to think of. Ormiston Academy, yeah, and Bloom School. And yet I see in 2020-21 that goes down to 0. Can I ask what is this district council doing? What is their role in supporting these unaddressed mental health concerns? What is the council's role, please?
Georgina?
Okay, can I just come back on that? Thank you very much for that reply, but I'm not sure it's answered my question. What is it that MDC does to support the schools to identify these children with unaddressed mental health concerns? What is it we actually do? Right, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fleming, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to come back to Councillor Hurd's request about call for sites. I think I saw that it was advertised on the MDC website, and don't quote me on this, but I think the 23rd of June was the deadline. So we should actually have, if we're in September now, there should be some data available for you on how many sites were provided. And then, thank you, Chair, through you, I just wanted to ask Georgina the sense of place engagement with businesses. I was hoping for sort of definition of engagement? Is that just they're on the mailing list and they receive the newsletter, or is it something a bit more in depth than that? Thank you.
Thank you. Is that okay?
Supplementary then, information.
Go on, I'll let you come back very quickly with a supplementary, then I'll go to Councillor Hull and then Councillor Stevens.
So in the light of that published date, of the 23rd of June, if we have met the target in Q1, can I ask what the thoughts are about meeting the target in Q2, please?
Can you?
Is that the Georgina?
Is that's the Georgina, isn't it? Yeah.
I know when we discussed this before, the reason why it hasn't been on track is because the action plan's got too many variables to be able to guarantee that we'll be able to get back on track. So that's why it's flagging at the moment. I don't know if Georgina wanted to add to that.
I was going to say, Georgina, do you want to send out something to this committee once you've done some? I was going to say, once you've looked into it, do you want to send an email to all the committee to answer that question?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hull, then Councillor Stevens, and then Councillor Edwards. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd like to come back about the fly tipping. Quite a few farmers seem to be quite upset because at the moment, if the tipping that goes into their field, they're being told if they don't get the fly tipping moved within a certain time, then they get legal action taken against them. As you know, farmers are busy, especially this time of year, and especially in our area, we're getting quite a lot of fly tipping right in the fields. Do you know if there's anything that can be done about this?
Can I go to Mr. Geller for any?
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. Coming back on Councillor Bird's point about some of the items in the report saying awaiting data and no baseline data available, could I ask in future if that happens, and I get the reasons why they've now been explained, that's fine, but could I ask that there's some sort of footnote written in the report, or instead of that great big awaiting data, I think there's quite enough room in there to put a little explanation, because I think for a resident look at that will think, well, why is it awaiting data? It looks like somebody didn't do what they should have done. They won't necessarily realise the reason why.
So we've drawn the information out in section 3.5 of the covering report that explains for all of the areas where we're awaiting data what we're doing about it or why we're waiting on data. But absolutely we can move that into the actual charts, that information, that's no problem.
Councillor Edwards.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Can I just clarify, please? Going back to item indicators at risk, which is the 5-year housing land supply, which is at risk under place thematic strategy. But going on to here, I understand that the land supply is now closed.
No,
So I wouldn't want.
that's two different things.
Oh, I got that mixed.
Yeah. So the 5-year land supply is what we've got at the moment. The call for sites, it's what could come forward for the new LDP.
But that's now closed.
Regina, do you want to?
It was confirmed, Julie. Sorry? On the initial, so it's still ongoing?
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
We yes, it would. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Councillor Swain.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I have several comments on this item. But as far as the new sites are concerned for the ADB, I think we can't have too many of them. And I hope that there will be more coming forward once the consultation on options is published. Specifically on this, if I may work through the points, perhaps I'll be dealt with in page 17. Where it mentions the value of tourism to the district, I would be interested to know what method is used to actually work that out. And on the question of intergenerational projects, one is mentioned there. Is there any other project being considered under that heading?
Can I let Cheryl answer those two questions beyond your next ones?
Yeah, so I believe the tourism value is actually in Essex, so we get the data back from Essex, so Essex-wide survey that we're waiting on. The intergenerational projects is specified, I believe, in the thematic strategy, what that work involves, but we haven't managed to actually do any of them so far because of COVID-19. So I'm not sure. We could probably provide more detail once we're running them.
To share the theme, the idea mentioned under intergenerational projects is the main area that you're thinking of.
Yes.
Okay. Well, and then move on then to page 25, where you've got two items concerning the 5-year housing land supply. The first one says that we're on track because we're progressing with the LDP. The fifth one down, under the same heading, is red at risk. That seems to me a contradiction. And in the commentary on it, it says that remedial action is in place. If that's anything other than progress with the NDP covered in the first point, I would be very interested to know what that is. But the phraseology there, that remedial action is underway, seems to imply that it's our fault that we're in this particular with the housing land supply. So it's a question of whether there's a contradiction between those two subheadings.
So in terms of the contradiction, so the supportive outcome, deliver the housing district needs, in it has got 5 areas that we're measuring to overall give how on track we are for delivering the housing district needs. So the particular one that's at risk is just the 5-year housing land supply statement updated and published. So the other elements that make up the housing district needs, the other action plans, they're all on track at the moment, they're all delivering as expected. So it's not necessarily a contradiction, it's that there's a number of different actions that make up how we go and deliver that particular area. Does that make sense?
What is what actions are we planning ourselves to take to remedy this 5-year supply?
I don't know if Georgina can answer to any more detail than what she's already presented on that, but
yes, it mentions, or it gives the impression that there are things that we are doing as a council to deal with the 5-year housing land supply other than what we're doing in relation to the LDP. I was wondering what those actions are. What is this action plan that Ms. Hughes mentioned?
Is that all your questions, Councillor Swain?
No, I have a couple more. A very brief one on page 27, and it says that a management plan for Promenade Park is being worked on. Is there also a management plan for Riverside Park in the works?
I think Prom Park Management Plan is the only one defined within the Central Area Master Plan document. So that's the one that we're monitoring. I don't know about any others that have been identified.
Yeah, thank you. I understand that, but perhaps there should be a management plan for Riverside Park. And lastly, on page 33, there's mention that businesses are dissatisfied with the services of the district council. What lies behind that? Which particular services are they dissatisfied with?
Can you be more specific on that one?
Page 33.
Page 33, but
terms of specific services that they engage with, but we ask a number of questions around do you feel you're getting enough support from Malden District Council? Do you feel you're getting value for money from Malden District Council? So that's what sort of informs that measure.
Yes, thank you. It's a little surprising in view of the great efforts that the District Council have done to provide finance from central government through to local businesses.
Thank you, Councillor Swan. Councillor Hurd, you've got your hand up.
Well, just briefly going on from that, is there not a box on the survey that says comments, in order that they can see where the room for improvement is?
Yeah, so we do have an open-ended comment box. In the survey when we ran it last October, we only had 28 businesses respond. So obviously we didn't have a lot of feedback. We will be rerunning the survey again this October, so we're hoping to generate a bit more feedback this time. But yeah, we don't have more detail because obviously the low response rate.
Okay, sorry, I just have a supplementary again on that.
Well, I've got Councillor Stevens that's been sitting there waiting, but she's happy for you to go.
Well, just very briefly, how will we be advertising the survey? I don't think it's enough just to put it on the website. How else can we do that?
We will be looking at the whole comms plan for it. Obviously, last year we were caught up in COVID and we did just do it as an online survey, and obviously businesses were likely quite caught up in COVID as well in terms of response rate. So we will be looking at the comms plan.
Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. I wonder if it would be possible to add to future reports where some of the targets come from. So if there's a 95% target, I'd really like to know if that's our in-house target or is it a national government target or whatever. Is that possible, please? Thank you.
Do you want to answer?
I said yes. So, yes.
So, can we put that on there to say where these targets come from? Yep, that's fine. Any other questions for Ms Hughes? Councillor Swain.
Yes, it's really in the recommendation 2. Members are assured through this review that corporate risk is being managed effectively. Should that be monitored rather than managed?
Ms Hughes?
I suppose in doing quarterly reports and the commentary and obviously the overall scores and directions that we're giving performance, this is all around to what extent we're actually addressing when performance. So, you know, the action plans, the information in there does actually show you where we're addressing poor performance or what we're doing to try and get performance back on track. So.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Fleming, you went to put your hand up. Is that going to be a question or?
No.
Okay. We have the 2 recommendations before us. They have been seconded. Are members happy to accept these by assent?
Yeah.
Agree.
Thank you. Item 8 on the agenda is the review of corporate risk quarter 1. Ms Hughes, can you present the report, please?
Yes. So the risk report presented to the committee covers quarter 1 of the corporate register, which is April to June 2021. All risks remain unchanged in score since the last report received by this committee. However, there are 3 risks that have been highlighted where we expect there to be change next quarter, and this was at the request of the committee last time around, having a view on what might change. So that's R10, failure to develop jobs and support the growing population. There are likely to be changes to this as the emerging picture from the pandemic evolves. R29, failure to deliver services as a result of COVID-19, and we're expecting changes from that as restrictions ease. And R9, failure to have a coordinated approach for inward investment, maximising business growth. Members are asked to review this register and confirm assurance through this update that corporate risk is being monitored effectively.
Thank you, Ms Hughes. Recommendations are, little 1, that members review the corporate risk register in Appendix 1 and provide comment and feedback for consideration. Little 2, that members are assured through the review that the corporate risk is being managed effectively. And little 3, that members challenge risk where the committee feels that the council's corporate goals may not be achieved. Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Fleming. Is there any questions for Ms Hughes? Councillor Swain.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have a problem with R10. I find it failure to develop to support the planning population. And it's actually treated as a the red line, I think, or went to red. 46 for 4.1 says there are no major concerns. I find that a bit of a contradiction, but on the other hand, I don't agree with R10 because it's really nothing to do with the council. It's not something we are responsible for, so we can't fail to do it. It's completely out of our hands.
Yeah, I think we're approaching this as we're a key stakeholder within the local community, and we should be actively encouraging to play our part to develop the economy and local jobs through the various means that we've got at our disposal. That includes obviously MVP, business engagement, and the business boards, and encouraging that local development, whether it be skills, etc. So I think we have a key role to play in the community around supporting jobs and encouraging growth. So that's really where we're approaching that from. I think obviously we've been impacted by COVID at this time, which had a huge impact, which is one of the areas where we're seeing risks in. But that's where it's coming from.
Thank you, Mr Leslie. Have you got a comeback on that? Because Councillor Boyce has got his hand up.
Yes, I mean, I think there's a general assumption on my plans that delineating employment areas is equivalent to creating jobs, which obviously isn't. But there is a role for the council in promoting the area and promoting the area to businesses, and that is something we can do. But then in that case, the failure would be failure to develop a programme for promoting investment in the or promoting new incomes to the district.
Thank you, Mr Swain. Councillor Boyce, you put your hand up.
Thank you, Chairman. R9. Is there a baseline of pre-COVID of what our non-domestic rate income was compared with now? I mean, a lot of our strategy was based on increasing and expectations of increasing our revenue was by increasing the non-domestic rate within the district. What effect has a major player like Quest's leaving done to the strategy?
Mr Leslie?
So yes, from the baseline data, obviously before COVID impact. I don't have that to hand. Obviously, part of the government support package has helped with a lot of relief that have been given to businesses locally, which will have an impact in supporting our council tax base. So we may see some things to come forward. What I do have to hand is some of the collection rates. I think that's probably another important consideration around businesses is the collection rate. So if we take, for example, August, and we look at pre-pandemic levels, we're at about 55% collection rate in August. We are currently this year at about 43%, so significant drop off in that. And if we look to our full year figure, pre-pandemic, about 98.5% collection, but last year during the pandemic only 93% collection. collection. So yes, there has been some significant impacts. We've built those reduced collection rates and reduced base into our budget in the MTFS as well. So that has been taken into account in our projections, and we continue to monitor that as we build next year's budget as well.
Thank you, Mr. Leslie. Mr. Boyce, I will let you come. Councillor Boyce, sorry.
I'm not being insulting to Mr. Leslie, but that sounded almost like a politician's answer, because he didn't answer the question. It wasn't about collection rates, which our financial people are very good and have got a very good record of the collection rates. But what I'm looking for is to see whether how much of a decrease in our non-domestic rates we are suffering from firms that have gone out or moved out of the district.
Mr. Leslie.
Yeah, thank you. Probably rephrasing the question in my mind, then in that case we're not necessarily interested in the bottom line income to the council, which obviously does take into account collection rates. We're more interested in seeing the sort of decline in perhaps businesses that may be noted through the overall collection rate. So yes, we do have the baseline. Unfortunately, I don't have those figures to hand, but I'll be happy to circulate perhaps those figures to the committee so you can see the actual top level reduction in the baseline.
If you could do that then. Councillor Fleming, you had your hand up, then Councillor Hull, and then Councillor Stevens and Councillor Hurd. Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to ask Ms. about R29, failure to deliver services as a result of COVID-19. It's in red. So Q1 services continue to be delivered, challenges exist. I just wanted to raise at this point the opening of the offices when this was the plans are for for the reception to be staffed again. As we live in a district with an elderly population who can't access services digitally, so I just wanted an update on plans to have a fully manned reception desk for those residents that can't access our services any other way. Thank you.
Then go to Georgina. Hannah? Okay, Miss Wait, off with Georgina. Miss Button, Mrs. Button, come on.
Miss Wheatley, yeah, I would say.
I don't know.
Hannah might be able to. Hannah?
Thank you. Is that okay, Councillor Fleming? Okay. Councillor Hull, you had a question.
Well, it's a response really on the R10 again, from Councillor Swain. We had a situation, this was about failures to deliver jobs. One of the local houses, David Wilson Homes, near us, had an industrial area, and we had a local business that was keen to expand. They went to look at this site after being recommended, but they said that they made it so difficult, and yet they were interested, they were looking around, and they found that somewhere in Sunderland made their business so much better to go up there and move the business out the area, because they felt that the Malden District Council weren't giving them the right opportunities in the area we have, especially with the David Wilson Homes, that seem to want to charge so much for industrial land, in the hope that if they don't get it as industrial, we'll put in parts of houses there. So that was just a response to Councillor Swain's saying that that's one of the reasons, not supporting the local community getting jobs really.
Okay, thank you. Mr Leslie, maybe you can look into that.
Councillor Hull, could you turn on?
Yeah, Councillor Hull, can you turn off your microphone, please? Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. I'd like to make a comment and then to ask a completely unrelated question. So, to pick up on what Councillor Fleming was asking and Hannah Wheatley's reply, I'd just like to know that it's not only vulnerable people who might want to come to the door. There are plenty of people who almost certainly wouldn't describe themselves as vulnerable, but they use the internet and their first thought is, I'll just go in and ask somebody. So I do just want to put that sort of make that note really, that it isn't only for vulnerable people, and we would be looking after those people anyway, I would hope. So that's a comment. A question please about risk 1, and I would assume from its number that it was the first one on the list. It is failure to safeguard children and vulnerable adults. I'm sad to see that nothing, that nothing's changed on that rating, and it's not even listed at the top as one that will improve soon. We could be in serious trouble here if something went wrong and it was course, but we didn't have even a policy, never mind that we didn't got it. And it says in the report that we're continuing to deliver against, what does it say, continue to progress, continues to work well. Well, I'm not sure how we can measure that we're continuing to work well if we don't actually have a policy under which you would have procedures and so on. I'm wondering if somebody could comment on all of that, please.
Yeah, we'll go to Mr Geller. Thank you. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you for that. So can you advise us when we'll see this disappearing off the risk register, please? Thank you.
Councillor Hurd, you had a question.
Thank you, Chairman. I think Councillor Stevens has asked the very question that I was going to. It's really just a question of whether the risk rating would reduce because of that. But I think that's been very well explained by Mr Geller. The other thing I just wanted to add, which is about, it's almost advertising really, but there is a senior safety and celebration event specifically for the over 65s, which is going to be held at Malden Stadium in Park Drive. And this will be looking at engaging talks and exhibitions showing the range of information and services that are available in Chelmsford and Malden. And this is a public information event paid for by the council. So I think that's good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr Geller. Is there any other questions? Councillor Swain.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I want to refer to R5 on page 50, which has concerning infrastructure, both highways and health. And the commentary seems relatively optimistic. I wonder what real progress has been made on, particularly on the health hub. You know, is there anything really to record there? And as far as the SMRR, the sample order relief is concerned, I mean, I thought that was probably pretty well funded anyway, so it's not a question of that. But rather than that, I think the connection to the A12 is possibly more important than the SMRR, and perhaps there should be another risk, failure to secure an improved access to the 12 junction 21, and that should be something that needs to be worked on. I think that's more important than the SMRR.
Councillor Fleming, did you want to come back to clarify any point there?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that Councillor Swain makes an excellent point. I fully agree with him. Actually, I think that should be included and possibly take priority over the SMRR. That would be good to put that in the next report. Thank you.
I think I can pass that feedback on. Obviously, the corporate register is reviewed by the CLT as part of their regular monitoring, so I'll pass that feedback on.
Thank you for that, Councillor Swain. Any other questions? Councillor Hull?
Can I just make a comment and come back to Councillor Stevens? It was on the national radio today about how well Essex are doing towards domestic violence, and that other counties should take a lead from them, because I know from experience, personal experience, but how well they do this subject at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Hull. Is there any other questions to go to Miss Hughes? No? So you have recommendations in front of you. You have the 3 recommendations. They have been seconded. Do you wish to take those by assent?
Yeah. Agree.
Thank you. Item 9 on the agenda is the Balance Scorecard Expectations Report page, found on pages 53 to 55. Ms Hughes, can you present that report?
Yes, so this is the second reporting of the 6-monthly Balance Scorecard Exception Report. The report builds further on our performance insights and gives the operational exceptions to add as a layer to the corporate outcomes that report to this committee quarterly. Internally, the extended leadership team review a monthly performance dashboard. This covers reporting around financial, operational, customer, organisational and statutory performance indicators. A full copy of this is available on the member SharePoint. This report aims to draw the member attention to the exceptions, where as a council we are either seeing underperformance or performance that surpasses targets. In section 3.5 of the covering report, the areas of underperformance are highlighted, along with their associated management response and action. There are 6 areas for this report. They are the percentage of business rates collected, the percentage of council tax collected, Revs and Bens outstanding cases and process time, commercial income delivery, leisure participation and uptake, and missed bins increase. The first 5 of these were highlighted in the operational exceptions that came to this committee in January 2021, but the bins issue has emerged since then. Many other authorities are also impacted by a national HGV driver shortage, and this is something we are working closely with the contractor on. Overall, all indicators have been impacted in some way by the changes of the pandemic and wider economic issues, but the reporting allows us to track the extent of the impact and account for this in our strategies and our response. In section 3.6 of the covering report, the areas of overperformance are highlighted. They are channel shift and website feedback. These 2 indicators were highlighted in the previous report, and it was noted the work that has taken place and continues around digital improvements that have helped to deliver this. But also, this is likely to have been impacted by the general customer move to online transactions in the pandemic. Members did give feedback on specific areas that could be improved online at last committee, and to gather detailed information to help us with this work, we have recently shared a form that members can complete as they identify further work and feedback from their customers. Members are asked to review and comment on this report and be assured through the reporting that operational performance is being managed effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. You have two recommendations. Recommendation 1, that the committee review and comment on exceptions to service reporting provided in this report. And little 2, that members confirm they are assured through the review operation performance is being managed effectively. Can I have a second of that? Thank you, Mr. Boyce. Councillor Boyce, sorry. Councillor Boyce, do you have a question?
Yes, Chairman. Page 54, 3.5, missed bin increases. I saw today that the council had made its case against the provider of a refuse sorting processing plant at Basildon, and that they stopped taking refuse. Has that created an additional problem for our waste collection by additional mileage that are required? And if that is the case, has it impacted on some of these miscollections that are occurring at the present?
Who wants to answer?
Hannah's the
Hannah, do you want to come back on that?
She says Damien.
All right, we'll go to Mr. Geller. Oh.
Basically, Basildon no longer processes waste because of a dispute, and I think they've gone into administration. Is that impacting on our waste service by having our the vehicles that operate in our district having to go further, extra mileage, which reduces the time that they're actually within our district? Thank you.
All right. Georgina, did you want to say anything? Thank you. Councillor Hurd, you had your hand up.
Well, I did. I think actually Spanners more or less answered my question. The only thing that I wanted to add was in the action. It says working with contractor. Again, this is about missed bins increase in June. Working with the contractor to discuss issues, clear communications to residents to update on these. So that doesn't really help the residents who haven't had those bins collected. But the point that I wanted to make was that this was in June 2021. Here we are now in September. Given the operational absences of drivers, is this something that we could have avoided or changed?
Did you get that, Mr. Geller?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens, you had your hand up, and then we'll come to you, Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, but my question's been answered.
Okay. Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to turn to page 54 and a question for Mr. Leslie. Leisure participation uptake being reviewed closely through the member working group. I'm on that working group and we haven't met since June, so I just wondered whether there were plans for another meeting. Thank you.
Yes, there's plans for another meeting to take place. With regards to the numbers, the summer period is obviously a naturally quiet period, and the restrictions to the line measures have just come out. So in terms of comparable data, there's not a lot there at the moment. The Places Leisure has advised us that November time will be where they will have some real accurate data and be able to give some more projections and have a real feel of actually how it's all tracking. The swimming is really almost back to pre-pandemic levels. That's been very successful around returning there. Where it is down is around the gym membership, and obviously that tends to be naturally lower in the summer months anyway, which is why we need those comparative figures. There is another meeting planned for around November time when there will be some accurate figures and projections around that, which we can make a decision.
Thank you, Mr. Leslie. Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Swain.
Thank you, Chair. Just on that comment from Mr. Leslie, I wouldn't be too optimistic about gym membership recovering in the near future, because it's a completely different situation for people who might be worried about COVID. I'd like to comment on two of these. First of all, the missed bin line, and I understand all the problems that contractors are having. But I think when we're discussing with them, we ought to be, should we say, on our guard that there could be shortcomings in their management as well, which has led to it. I have in mind this recent case that a whole team had to be suspended because the one person who had a first aid qualification was off. Now that is a management issue of failing, and there may be other instances. So I think we should be prepared to quiz Suez on what they're doing to try and counter the problems. On the question of that overachievement, I noticed both of them are concerned with IT, and I think this comes back to this point which has been made previously, I think particularly by Councillor Stevens, that this drive to have everything online can go too far, and there does need to be face-to-face contact, particularly in this area of the reception in the offices. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to Mr. Leslie, we've had a member of the public contact us to say that Councillor Morrison are actually picking up feedback from your phone on the YouTube. So just to say that they are picking up feedback, please.
I don't know how they're picking up feedback from a phone, I hardly hear itself.
Mr Leslie.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of the driver shortage, obviously there's been a pandemic the workers have obviously worked through on that time. There's also been delays in, we talked about the first aid training, so it's been one of the impacts is first aid training hasn't been able to be carried out during the pandemic time, and they are now catching up on some of those courses, which they obviously have to do for legal requirements. And now the team's obviously faced with a driver shortage caused by obviously a pandemic, Brexit, and other factors around that. So they have been taking action to do this. It's been a national issue there. Lots of companies are in exactly the same position, so it's not unique to us at all. And the team are trying to identify training for existing staff. There is a waiting list now for training, but that is something they are doing, looking to advertise roles through different mediums. For example, if there are people in the army, they look to people from that sort of possible route as well. They look at agency staff, but as you can imagine, agency staff are obviously inundated at the moment with the same demands and competition we're having around there. We look to sort of refocus some of the drivers around there for perhaps the food waste and the 7.5-tonne vehicles, which have slightly different requirements as well. So we're looking at actually how they around some of the driving requirements on that as well, and also looking potentially in discussions with us around some recruitment and retention, and how we can manage that at the moment. So there is a lot of activity taking place, but we are very much in the same boat as everyone else nationally.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? No. So we have the recommendations. They have been seconded. Are you happy to take those by assent?
Great.
Thank you. Item 10 on the agenda is the annual governance statement actions update. I call on Ms Hughes to present the report.
Thank you. So the annual governance statement identifies an action plan to build on and improve our best practice around governance at Malden District Council. This is the second time that this report is presented 6 monthly to the committee, so that you can see progress on the actions and what we are doing to improve our governance around, as well as any barriers to achieving this. Section 3.4 presents a table of the actions, and the commentary explains the progress and work that is taking place on these. Members are invited to review the information set out and provide any challenge they might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Hughes. Recommendation is to review the annual governance statement table and updates below and challenge where necessary. Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Fleming. Do I have any questions for Ms Hughes? Are you all happy to accept this by assent then?
Great.
Thank you. Item 11 on the agenda, just go to that one, is the update on the health and safety report, and I will call on Ms Wheatley to present the report. Thank you. Recommendations are little 1 to note the accident and incident statistics, and little 2 to note the work undertaken during quarter 2 on health and safety activities. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Fleming. Do I have any questions for the officers? Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask about one of these accidents where a member of the Parks team cut an electricity cable. Was that the cable to an electric mower or some other electric cable that was sort of lying around in the park? Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Stevens.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, normally in that situation, an electric cable would be, well, made very visible. I would assume covered, I don't know much about it, but I would have thought covered with an orange plastic mat of some sort, and I would have thought with brass now we might be suspended while that was in place. So, obviously something went wrong there, but what assurances do we have that it won't happen again?
Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask Hannah about the interim health and safety officer, where they were going to do their work, because it would be normal in normal circumstances if that sort of work was in a place of work. I'm just interested to learn, you know, where they're going to do their work, because obviously most staff aren't in the offices. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fleming.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. So they're not looking at other sort of departments. It's literally just the parks and assets.
Is there any other questions? No, if everybody is happy, then you've had the recommendations, they have been seconded. Are you happy to agree those by assent? Thank you. Item 12 on the agenda is any other business that the chairman decides are urgent. I have none. Item 13 is closure of the meeting. Members, thank you for your contribution this afternoon, or this evening. I now draw the meeting to a close at 9:50. Sorry, 8:50. As the meeting is now closed, members are advised not to enter into any further discussion on this forum, and please to leave the meeting promptly. Thank you.
Well done, thank you.